Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Apolla's Odyssey. I'm your host, Apolla Asteria, and tonight I am doing a show on the Black Knight Satellite. I think it's a really interesting topic, and I know it's something a lot of people have been kind of talking about more in the most recent year or last few months, really. So I wanted to kind of go over the different theories of what it may be. I know a lot of people say that it's a myth and that it was actually space junk or space debris. Other people say that it's an ancient alien satellite. Some people even think it's from, some ancient lost civilization that may have been on our planet previously. And yeah, so I just kind of want to get into all of that and the different theories and claims on it. It's good to see everyone in the chat here. It's been a while. It's been a couple weeks. It's so great to have so many people commenting the last couple weeks while I haven't been actually filming or doing my shows, wondering where I'm at. I'm so sorry, you guys. I guess I should put out a notice, but I had to travel for work, and then I've also been filming with Blake and Brent Cousins from Third Phase of Moon, and we have been filming a movie project. So that's going to be coming out pretty soon, I think. So stay tuned for that. Pretty exciting. I haven't really been able to work in Hollywood lately because I don't have, the job. So yeah, like basically that's been the first time I've been able to film in a while. So I'm really excited about it. Really fun. I'm hoping the industry is going to let go of some of these mandates soon. It's looking like that may happen. So fingers crossed for that. Um, but yeah, it's so good to see everyone in the comments. I just have been kind of taking it easy trying to finish up some projects this month before I basically have a conference happening every month for the next year basically. So I've been working really hard getting my products together, my spirit collection together. It's finally almost done. So just wrapping up these products during the first month of the new year, and then I'm really excited for this next cycle coming up. It's going to be really fun. Before I get started with this show, while I'm waiting for some people to come on, I want to let you all know that I'm going to be doing a few events coming up here. One, well, it's not soon, but it's the Glastonbury Portal to Ascension event happening in August. I'm going to be speaking at that. So I will probably in the next show start sharing the links with all of that. There's also an event in Mount Shasta, which I'll be speaking at. So the next few shows I think I'll have the information for that pulled up and then let you all know exactly how you can get tickets to these events. My soonest one that's coming up very soon here is Conscious Life Expo next month. I do that every year. This year I wasn't able to make it in as a speaker because I just signed up way too late. I didn't really think I was going to end up doing it, but then last minute decided on it. So yeah, that's exciting. Also, Alien Con and possibly Contact in the Desert. I mean, either way, I'm going to be at Contact in the Desert because that was the first conference I ever went to, and I've been going to it every year since 2013 that it's actually been on. I think it's been 2 years where it hasn't actually happen physically. So, yeah, I don't know if I'll sell my spears at that or I might just be there. Who knows? I might get in as a speaker looking into it. So, really excited about all this. It's going to be a really good year. I'm excited about it. So, just going through the comments here, I know someone commented a little earlier on the show here. Who was it? Scott Owens commented on the topic of tonight's show and said, I read about it before on Reddit threads. NASA says it's space junk garbage bag from a previous Apollo mission, but I don't think anyone really believes that. Exactly. So I'm going to go over the claims of what that is before I get into the conspiracy stuff that I think more people are excited about or probably prefer to believe in. So, but before I get into that, I need to remind you all to please go check out my art if you want to support my show. This is kind of how I fund myself and keep myself going is with the sales of my shaman spears, which are uniquely handcrafted energy chilling devices that I invented myself. There aren't many left in the last couple of collections, and I swear I almost have my new collection out. It's been so much work, you guys, but I'm really excited about it. But these ones that I have on the store right now, which is on shamanspears.com, scrolling on the ticker across the bottom of the screen here, those are at a very reduced price from what I'll be selling the next collection. And I actually really need the help because I have several booths I need to pay for to get myself into some conferences coming up. So if you want to support me with that, it would be so much appreciated. All you have to do is purchase a spear. I'll send it out to you next day shipping on all orders. And every order of a spear comes with this ancient sacred scroll that talks about what it means to have one. It's kind of a secret until you get one, then you can see what it says. It's like a certificate, I guess you could say. So yeah, this comes with them for free. And I have like other art things on the site too that you might prefer besides just the spears. Okay, so like I was saying with Scott Owens' comment up here about the garbage, about it being space debris or space garbage. Let me start with that. And then I think you'll see what I'm talking about or what Scott is talking about when he says that no one really believes that. Okay. So this is an article from space.com. The Black Knight Satellite, a hodgepodge of alien conspiracy theories. It's a convoluted story that invokes Nikola Tesla, a spacewalker's fumble, and more. Sometimes the introduction of a news report will stop you in your tracks, forcing you to reread in fear you didn't quite grasp its point the first time. That was certainly the case when Mail Online published a story on March 21st, 2017. An alien satellite set up more than 12,000 years ago to spy on humans has been shot down by elite soldiers from the Illuminati, UFO hunters claim. And with that, the conspiracy surrounding the so-called Black Knight satellite appeared to be very much alive. It's been more than 120 years, conspiracists believe, since the existence of the Black Knight was first recorded. Those who subscribe to the theory, hold on a second. Before I say 120 years since it was recorded, like I haven't got that far into this, but I'm wondering how they would have recorded it 120 years ago. Must be the radio thing they're talking about with Nikola Tesla, not video. So let's keep going here. Those who subscribe to the theory invoke an extraterrestrial spacecraft in near polar orbit of Earth, although they draw upon pieces of evidence so disparate that it's not entirely clear why people link them. What it all amounts to is a strange brew that has spurred some folks to shout about cover ups by NASA and other government entities. It's a legend that refuses to go away. A lot of the earliest discoveries that have been linked to the Black Knight satellite's theory relate to radio signals, but a series of images from 1998 really threw the celestial cat among the pigeons. They were taken during STS 88, the first space shuttle mission to the International Space Station. There for all to see were images released by NASA that showed a black object hovering above our planet in low Earth orbit. And it wasn't long after the images were thrust into the front of a hopeful public before people were performing some conspiratorial sums and sharing them with a wider world. By the way of explanation, STS-88 astronaut Jerry Ross pointed out that the ISS was in the midst of being constructed when the images were taken. The US team, he said, was on its way to attach the American module to the one created by the Russians, and as part of that work, they had taken 4 trunnion pin thermal covers with them. The task was to wrap these around 4 bare trunnion pins, and these being rods that attach the module to the Space Shuttle Endeavour while it was being transported. This would act to prevent heat loss from the exposed metal. Unfortunately, during one of the spacewalks associated with this work, things went a little bit wrong. One of the covers came loose from its tether, causing it to float away along with some other items. Jerry, one of the thermal covers got away from you, STS 88 Commander Robert Cabana, who now serves as Associate Administrator of NASA, told Ross during the spacewalk, and it soon became apparent that the cover was lost for good. Subsequently captured on camera, this runaway black object was given the catalog number 025570 by NASA. A few days later, the item fell from orbit and burned up. Much of this information has been placed on record. Former NASA engineer James Oberg, who personally knows Ross and the person who took the photos, cosmonaut Sergei Krikalev, has demonstrated that these supposed images of the Black Knight actually depict a very mundane object. Before leaving NASA, I led the trajectory design team that produced the mission profile, Oberg told All About Space. Every step of the way, there is consistency with what I learned as a lifelong spaceflight operations specialist, why the blankets were needed, why one of them came loose, and why it floated off the way it did, he added. The difference is, for the general public, all these features are unearthly to folks who are only familiar with Earthside principles of heating, working, motion, and dozens of other never before encountered in history aspects of outer space. Given Oberg's thorough debunking, you'd think the matter would have been put to bed a long time ago. But no, since the images were shared far and wide, conspiracy theories have lingered. They are probably some of the weirdest looking 70mm photos to ever come out of the Space Shuttle program, Oberg said, and apparently a NASA website update made the original links inoperative, sparking concerns over a cover up, all normal journalistic practices, determining the timeline, asking witnesses, searching for the wider context were skipped. And so this is kind of like a closer photo of what that looks like. Conspiracists absorbed the STS-88 images in a growing body of evidence claiming they were proof that the Black Knight alien satellite really is out there. Reaching that conclusion, however, has required great leaps of faith and has also needed past observations to be forced into the overall story. Firm believers have had no problems going all the way back to 1899 in the pursuit of such truth. But just like the photographic records, each piece of supposed evidence brought to the table so far has been explained just fine without falling back on the Black Knight myth. So, what happened in 1899? Nikola Tesla began to record some very odd signals, seemingly from outer space. While in his barn like laboratory in Colorado Springs that year, the genius Serbian American inventor and electrical engineer noted some unusual radio signals and speculated they had come from an intelligent alien civilization. That's perhaps the least likely explanation, of course. Over the years, some people have speculated that Tesla may have detected emissions from a pulsar, a subdense, fast spinning stellar corpse, but that's probably off the mark as well, scientists say. The very first source of non terrestrial radio was discovered in the 1930s, and that was just from the center of our galaxy, which is the most powerful radio source in the sky at many frequencies, said Jean Gourgain, a scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Southern California. It wasn't until the 1960s that the technology evolved to detect the first pulsars. It was Tesla detected that a real signal and not an artifact of his instrument is most likely came from Earth. People continue to use Tesla's findings to bolster claims that from the Black Knight. They also took on board the work of a Norwegian engineer called Horgen Hals, who in the 1920s found that radio signals he transmitted were being echoed back to him a few seconds later. We now know that these are long delayed echoes, and Hals was the first person to observe them. The fact that we don't have a confirmed explanation of this case, however, has been seized upon. In 1973, Duncan Lunan wrote an article in Spaceflight magazine suggesting that people studying long delayed echoes had overlooked the possibility that they were sent by an alien space probe. Lunan still has faith in an extraterrestrial explanation for the recordings. And so, you know, this is just like I said, that's the article kind of debunking everything. So I want to start out with that first. Just to get that out of the way so I don't have people commenting here like, hey, NASA said that that was actually space junk. The people that still believe in NASA and what they say anyway. So I want to get into the other theories with this. And, just because like maybe there has been talk of this satellite a long time before this photo was captured, so maybe even if this was the photo captured of the debris, which like a lot of people say they don't think is true, that they believe is a cover up, but if that isn't a photo of the debris, or if that is a photo of the debris, that doesn't mean that there still isn't an ancient satellite up there. And this has been something that's been talked about a long time before that photo was captured, and people saw the photo and tried to use it as evidence. And I'm not saying maybe the photo was a cover up. Maybe it was really the satellite in the photo. Who knows? So I'm going to get into that some more, just going over the comments here real quick. Okay, so the next article I'm going to read here is from Gaia, and of course this will be the one that will be more out there. Okay, so this is from Gaia. Black Knight 13,000-year-old satellite mystery decoded. This article came out in 2019. Space debris or a 13,000-year-old satellite. A mysterious object dubbed the Black Knight orbits the Earth, puzzling scientists of the past and present. Some, like inventor and scientist Nikola Tesla, claim to have received radio signals from the orbiting figure. Astronaut Gordon Cooper was adamant that in 1963 he saw it from his own spacecraft. The documented history of the evidence of the Black Knight continues to mystify scientists. Nikola Tesla and the Black Knight. Although Nikola Tesla's inventions changed the world the way people live in today, back in 1899, his peers viewed him as eccentric and somewhat of a mad scientist. When he built a laboratory and a 210-foot tower in Colorado Springs in order to experiment with electricity and record electromagnetic disturbances, his colleagues did not take him seriously. When he reported that he had received signals from extraterrestrials, the newspapers of the day mocked him. Despite the ridicule of his peers, Tesla was excited about the signals he received and came to fervently believe that he had been the first to hear the greeting of one planet to another. A purpose was behind these electrical signals. Researchers now believe the signals Tesla received likely came from the Black Knight. Modern history of the Black Knight. Although there were some reports in the 1930s of astronomers around the world receiving strange radio signals in 1954, the St. Louis Dispatch ran an article titled Artificial Satellites Are Circling Earth. Writer on Saucers says the reference writer was Donald E. Kehoe, who wrote about unidentified satellites orbiting the Earth. He claimed the government knew about them and was trying to discover their source. Kehoe later wrote a book, Aliens in Space: The Real Story of Unidentified Flying Objects, where he documented the knowledge of UFOs, including that he knew about the Black Knight satellite. Gaia's Deep Space series discusses some of this work. Scientists and astronomers reported seeing the satellite as it orbited the Earth. In 1953, a professor at the University of New Mexico saw a blip of unknown origin. In 1957, Dr. Luis Carollos, with the Communications Ministry in Venezuela, was taking pictures of the Russian satellite Sputnik 2 as it passed over Caracas. The Black Knight showed up in his photograph. This was the first known actual picture of the object. And so that is completely different than the story I just talked about in the previous article. So, kind of interesting. In 1960, an American satellite showed the object following Sputnik 1, which was still orbiting the Earth. The UFO was in a polar orbit. At that time, neither the US nor the Russians were capable of putting a satellite in that type of orbit. The object also appeared to be much larger and heavier than anything either country could launch. In the 1960s, Time magazine, as well as other news publications, reported on the Black Knight and referred to it as possibly having an extraterrestrial origin. Some North American ham radio operators had detected signals coming from the object. Some even reported receiving coded messages. On September 3rd, 1960, the Black Knight showed up on radar for the first time. People on the ground viewing it with the naked eye could see it for about 2 weeks. The government reportedly established a committee to investigate the object, but no report was ever made. In 1963, astronaut Gordon Cooper was orbiting the Earth when he said he saw a glowing green light ahead of his space capsule. At the same time, a tracking station in Australia, over which the spacecraft was orbiting at the time, reported seeing the object on radar. The Evening News reported on Cooper's sighting, and for the first time, the object was referred to as a Black Knight satellite. The name stuck, but Cooper's report did not. NASA soon debunked Cooper's UFO sighting, claiming that there had been a malfunction in the space capsule, which caused gases to emit that appeared glowing light. The result, said NASA, was that Cooper had an hallucination and did not see a UFO. Cooper later confirmed that he had definitely seen a UFO on his 1963 space orbit and that NASA had prohibited him from discussing it. Until his death in 2004, Cooper claimed that he did not have a hallucination in the spacecraft, but that he saw a UFO. He was very vocal during his lifetime about his belief in the existence of extraterrestrial life, and his frustration with the US government continued to cover up evidence of alien contacts. Which is really weird because this is the same person that was just mentioned in the last story with space.com. So that just goes to show how many different stories we're getting here on this. Who knows what's legit and what's not. In 1998, astronauts on the space shuttle Endeavour, on their way to the International Space Station, took photographs of the object. NASA again disagreed with astronauts and claimed that what they photographed was not a UFO, but instead just space debris, most likely the thermal blanket we mentioned earlier. Black Knight communications with human beings. Influential people and highly respected authors, movie producers, directors, and members of secret societies have claimed to receive communications from alien beings, including signals from the Black Knight satellite. Gene Roddenberry, the creator of the Star Trek television series and movies, is almost a household name. In 1973, to 1974, he reportedly associated this with a secret society called the Council of Nine. The Nine, in brief, was a group of prominent people who believed that the channeled messages received by their leaders were actually messages sent by extraterrestrials. Roddenberry allegedly based his Star Trek episodes on what he learned from the Nine, including the giveaway title he chose for a post Star Trek series called Deep Space Nine. Many believe the source of the channel messages was the Black Knight. I have never heard that before. That's a bit far fetched. Who knows? Kind of crazy. Author Philip K. Dick claimed to have communications with alien beings. The way he described his first encounter with the being in February 1974 is consistent with some of the captured coded messages from the Black Knight. Dick's Valis trilogy was, according to those who knew him or researched him, really a fictionalized autobiography and not science fiction. It pulled from his communications with an alien entity, which were likely from the Black Knight. Again, that seems to be kind of jumping to conclusions there, but I haven't read that book. So if anyone has read that book or that series, comment below and let me know what you think of it. I haven't actually heard of it before, so we'll have to check that out. Is the Black Knight still with us? Two separate people in different parts of the country who were each photographing the blue moon on July 31st, 2015, captured what they believe is the Black Knight. The object was once again passing by the ISS. Is the Black Knight an ancient alien vessel? And just to pause that there for a second, if what they photographed, or if they photograph something with like like some sort of telescope camera um of the blue moon, it wouldn't, like, a thermal blanket wouldn't be big enough to show up. So that's something that would kind of debunk that. If I haven't seen these photos though, but just saying. But could this be a satellite from somewhere in deep space that is trying to communicate with humans on Earth? Or is it simply a piece of space debris left behind by spacecraft made by Earthlings? You decide. Okay, so that was the more far-fetched article on all of this. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd like to hear what all of your thoughts are on this. I honestly can't really tell either way. I've heard so many different things. Another thing that I've heard, which wasn't mentioned in that article, but a lot of people mention when bringing this up, is that apparently it orbits in the opposite direction that space junk normally orbits. So they don't know how that is possible. Like, we couldn't put something up there that would orbit in the opposite direction. So that's something that I haven't found in here. But very interesting. Something that's also not mentioned, a lot of people are saying, like, oh, it's an ancient alien satellite. What if it was actually something from, like, a super ancient lost civilization on our planet that was, like, 3 cataclysms ago or something? Who knows? It might be from, a lost civilization here where we had technology at one time that was super advanced, and 3 cataclysms later, here we are wondering what it is. Who knows? Kind of interesting. So, okay, I'm going to read this comment that just came up here. A Medical United. How could something natural remain in orbit for so long? I bet it's human technology of advanced civilization from long before. As I was just saying, a global cataclysm destroyed everything except for that stuff on the moon. Yeah, I think that could be likely. Very much likely. Also, like, maybe some sort of aliens from another planet sent it here to see what humans are doing here. Who knows? Like, that would be weird, but it's another theory. And like I said, like, even if the one photo is actually the photo of the space blanket or whatever it is, that doesn't mean that there aren't actually ancient satellites or really strange, interesting debris from previous civilizations orbiting. So this is something that has actually come up in a lot of interviews I've done. As I'm sure many of you know, I've been doing interviews with a lot of people that have been a part of different programs and things on my channel and real well off my channel, just hanging out with them for many years now. And something that does come up a lot with a lot of these people that have worked for different programs is that there is a lot of very interesting space junk orbiting our planet that was there before we started putting stuff up there. And they said that it's a lot. Like there's a lot up there. Like just since we started putting satellites up there in other countries, apparently there were already a lot up there from what I've heard from a lot of different interviews I've done with people. And yeah. Also, Michael Strat is someone that I need to have on here at some point, but I heard him say one time, and he's someone that kind of is an expert on crash UFO recovery, and I'm not sure if I said that right. Um, but yeah, UFO recovery, or things from space that fell. Apparently there are like teams of people that are sent out to recover crashed UFO debris, um, and take it away from the scene whenever it happens. And apparently this happens very often, like maybe 5 times a week or something like that. I can't remember what he said. It was something like that. It was like very often. I'll have to have him come on here soon. Or I know a couple other people that are experts on that as well. So, but yeah, that's something to really think about. Definitely something that's come up a lot in interviews before for me that I think is really fascinating. So, even if the Black Knight satellite could be a myth, there's so much to think about when it comes to this, because really there may be a lot up there from previous civilizations, or before we started putting stuff up there, that could be very interesting. So I had another couple articles to share that went along with this. Let me see here. Oh, okay. And so obviously something else that comes to mind is this I can never say this right. Oumuamua. Sorry if I'm not saying that right, but this craft, of course, or well, some people say it's an asteroid, some people say it's space debris or a ship. So, I'll just read this article very quickly on what this was, because this really, to me, connects with all this. And so when did this article come out? Let me just make sure I let you all know when this came out. Oh, this came out in 2021. So astronomers spent decades looking for objects from outside our own solar system, and then two arrived at once. When should we expect the next one, and what can they teach us? It emerged from the celestial void in October 2017, a tiny bright speck on the telescope at Haleakala Observatory, Hawaii. Tumbling through space at 57,000 miles an hour, the object is thought to have come from the direction of Vega, an alien star that resides 147 trillion miles away, possibly shaped like an elongated cigar, possibly formed into an uncannily spaceship like disk. By the time it was spotted, it had already zipped by our own sun, performed a slick hairpin turn, and begun hurling off in another direction. This space anomaly was called Oumuamua, pronounced Oumuamua. Okay, I did say that right. Awesome. For a messenger from afar arriving first. Robert Wirk, the astronomer at the University of Hawaii who first detected it, knew immediately from its speed that he was looking at something new to physics. There is no ordinary comet, or this was no ordinary comet or asteroid. It was an interstellar visitor from a distant, unidentified solar system, the first to have ever been found. So he claims. Appropriately for an object with such alien origins, it soon became clear that Oumuamua was suitably strange. Two things in particular fixated scientists. The first was its mysterious acceleration away from the sun, which was hard to reconcile with many ideas about what it might have been made of. The second was its peculiar shape. By some estimates, it was 10 times as long as it was wide. Before Oumuamua, the most elongated known space objects were 3 times longer than they were wide. Over the years that followed, scientific journals and global media headlines swarmed with speculation. Was it a block of solid hydrogen? Could it have been a cosmic dust bunny? A giant space version of the clumps of hair and debris often found under our living room furniture? Or was it, as the esteemed Harvard astronomer Avi Loeb suggested, an artificial construction made by an intelligent extraterrestrial civilization? A surprise guest. Scientists had suspected for decades that our solar system might be regularly visited by these intergalactic voyagers, many of which are thought to have been roaming among the stars for billions of years. But there are hundreds of specialist instruments scanning the skies each night, from a snow-battered telescope at the South Pole to the sun-baked Atacama Large Millimeter Array ALMA in the Chilean Andes, none has ever been spotted. Then, not long after Oumuamua appeared, something unexpected happened. They found another one. On 30th August 2019, the engineer and amateur astronomer Gennady Borisov glimpsed an object moving against the pre-dawn sky from his personal observatory in Noshiny, sorry, I don't know how to pronounce that, Crimea. Using a telescope he had made himself, even at first sight, he realized it was special. It was traveling in a different direction to the comets that inhabit the main asteroid belt that straddles the solar system. Borisov was named in its discoverer's honor and is suspected to be a rogue comet, one that is not bound to a star. So, where do these visitors come from? And what can they tell us about alien solar systems? And how should we expect to see them? To find out, first, it helps to know what they are made of. A mysterious absence. Oumuamua has not yet been definitively classified as a comet or asteroid. It might be something else entirely, but scientists have always thought that the most interstellar objects could be former. Some of the comets that currently inhabit the furthest reaches of our own solar system may have originally been interstellar voyagers before they were captured by the sun's gravity, so this could make sense. However, most comets have tails, bright smudges that trail behind them, which form when they travel close to the sun and heat up, releasing the frozen gases and dust inside them. As you might have guessed by now, Oumuamua didn't. This was particularly jarring because its path took it deep into the solar system, plunging towards the sun and missing it by a mere 26 AU, around a quarter of the distance from the Earth to the sun. As the data came in and more peculiarities came about, says Loeb, adding that he attended a conference about Oumuamua around this time, and when it ended, he left the room with a colleague who has worked on asteroids for decades. He said, "This is so strange. I wish I had never existed. It had never existed." It took people out of their comfort zone. So at first, scientists thought that perhaps this meant Oumuamua was a rocky asteroid after all. Then more observations came through, and they found that it had this acceleration as it was moving away from the sun, says Alan Jackson, an astronomer and planetary scientist at Arizona State University. This was universally baffling. It's perfectly normal for comets to accelerate as they travel back out from a close encounter from the sun, but only because they're being powered by their tails. The gases being injected give them a kick, like the engine on a rocket. That is really the straw that broke the camel's back for me, so to speak. In addition to the sun's force of gravity, there was something pushing it away, says Loeb. In order to explain this push, you needed about a tenth of the mass of the object to evaporate. One idea was that perhaps the object was a hydrogen iceberg, a giant lump of frozen hydrogen, which could have been formed or it could have formed a tail that wouldn't be visible from Earth. However, not everyone was convinced. For a start, no one had ever seen hydrogen ice in space. Loeb and his colleagues have argued that lumps of it couldn't possibly have remained cold enough for long enough to form a large object like Oumuamua. And given that its freezing point, negative 259 degrees Celsius, is only slightly above the ambient temperature of the universe, it seems unlikely that it would have survived the several hundred million year trek from the nearest region of space thought to make such objects. As one commentator put it, it could have fallen apart after being cooked by starlight. And so that's just briefly touching on this here. But, this is really interesting because now we're starting to see these objects passing by more often than before. I'm just looking at these comments here. Christy here says it could be caught on trade routes in its orbit. Interesting. So yeah, just going through the comments here, but yeah, so very interesting stuff here. And let me see here if there's something else I wanted to get into. So basically, I just think this is really fascinating because there's so much that, you know, we don't even know about that is circling our own planet, but also in our solar system, we're starting to see more and more. And I find this really fascinating. I had another article pulled up. I don't really want to get into it, but also the fact that there's now space debris around Mars. Um, and I think it would be very interesting to find out what we actually do have orbiting our planet. As from what I've heard from many different insiders, there seems to be a lot that isn't from our civilization up there. So I think that would be very interesting to look into. And also something to think about is that really all those things up there are kind of a danger to us because they can drop out of orbit at any time for different reasons and smash into the earth. And apparently this is happening pretty often. Like I said before, there are teams of people that are actually sent out to recover these craft all the time. So, pretty interesting. And I think this is something that we need to be looking into more. Um, I know China actually developed something that they have been sending out to go out and collect satellites. So, I'm wondering what else they have found doing that. I'm sure like they probably don't put it out there, but I think if that technology is out there that we can use to start taking this space debris out of our orbit, we should probably start doing that. I know like one show I saw before that really made me think about this was Last Man on Earth. I don't know if any of you have seen that, but it's a show about basically, everyone on the planet like dies from some disease or something. It was really weird because the show came out before COVID, and then it was kind of like, everyone died from some sort of sickness or something. It was kind of weird. But yeah, when that show happened, like there was one part where this space junk, like a satellite, fell out of the sky and landed on a nuclear base or like a nuclear reactor area, and this area like exploded. So that's something that could actually very likely happen. And I think it would be really good if we actually went out and checked into what is in our orbit, kind of interesting. So I'm going to keep today's show a little shorter because I just have a lot going on, projects I'm trying to finish up here. But I'm going to be filming an interview on another show Monday, I believe it is, with Mary Edwards, who I interviewed on here before. So that's going to be really exciting. I hope to maybe have her on again soon. As I've said in the last few shows, I've been kind of wary about booking guests as interviews lately because I've just been my schedule's been so all over the place. I hate when I book a show with someone and then I have to cancel because I end up getting some sort of work or something last minute. So I've been kind of keeping my schedule more open and trying to just kind of book interviews more last minute lately. But hopefully, I can find a way to make things more stable where I can book more interviews more often for you guys. But I feel like a lot of you kind of prefer when I just kind of do shows on my own anyway. So, yeah. But hopefully, I have a lot of people lined up that really want to come on my show. So hopefully I can start doing that again soon. It's just my schedule's been so all over the place lately. It's hard to really have things planned out like a month ahead of time like most people prefer when they want to be interviewed. So we'll see. I'm not sure what I'll be doing next week yet. So I'll let you all know. If I don't come on, I had a lot of people freaking out the last couple weeks because I wasn't on Wednesday. So if I don't come on, just know that I probably didn't die. I just am very busy. But hopefully I'll make it next Wednesday. I try to be here every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific. So hopefully I will be here. And the next show, I should have my spears done, hopefully. So excited about that. And I have a lot of events coming up that I should be releasing on my show. So hopefully the next show I do, I'll let you guys know about all my upcoming events so that you can purchase tickets if you want to come out and see me speak. Would be super fun. But in the meantime, Conscious Life Expo, the LA Conscious Life Expo is coming up in February, and I will be selling my spears there. So really excited about that. I always have fun doing that event every year. So if you're in the LA area, you want to come out to LA, definitely look into the LA Conscious Life Expo. Oh, and thank you, Marvelous Marvin, for the donation. I really appreciate that. So much appreciated. All right, everyone. Thanks so much. I'm just looking at the comment here. Someone says, as long as you don't get abducted. You know, um, I would actually very much like to be abducted. I would love that. So I'm not worried about that. If I get abducted, if I don't come on next week, I probably did get abducted because I was begging them to come get me. Okay. So thanks everyone for joining me tonight. And until next time on Apollo's Odyssey, over and out.